Hey everybody, and welcome back to Indie Corner Radio. This is a brand new season, and I am excited. I'm your host, Jonathan Moody, and I've got an awesome guest here. So you might know him from the director of Misfits or Misfit. Uh,
Misfit, yeah.
yeah, the Misfits is a whole new thing, another thing. Um, but no, Misfit, and then there's also Silence, which I just finished watching, really enjoyed, and can't wait to break into that and stuff.
Uh,
Todd E Braley, how you doing, Todd?
I'm doing well, man. Thanks a lot for having me on, Jonathan. This is cool.
I did
This is
pronounce your last name right, right?
Bra- Braley. Yep,
Okay,
yep.
wasn't
People,
sure. Sometimes it might be pronounced something differently,
yeah,
you know.
people don't get I get called Bradley a lot.
They
So
think there's a D there.
yeah, somehow, some way, somebody's dyslexic and they find a D in there. It's kind of funny because we used to get mail when I was a kid, and my dad's name is Milton, and then the Bradley was on the mail, so it would be Milton Bradley. And then one of our neighborhood friends was like, your dad owns the toy company. I'm like, no, dude, no, we wouldn't live
No,
here. If my dad was the actual Milton Bradley toy company.
if he owned that, man, that would be awesome. I wouldn't
Yeah,
lie, you know.
no kidding.
I
No
don't
kidding.
think Milton Bradley was a real. I don't think that was one person, was it?
I I I don't necessarily. I couldn't tell you. I
You never
couldn't
did
tell
a
you.
Wikipedia search for it or anything after
No,
that.
no. I think I'll do one. I'll do one after I get done with you tonight and
Well,
send you a
check it out. I
message.
could check it out now if I wanted to. But no, thank you so much. No, it's Braley, not Bradley, and I'm really excited to chat with you. So so you talked a little bit about it, but like, what was your childhood like growing up?
You know, we grew up. It was I everything. I grew up fine. I mean, I wasn't. It wasn't a bad childhood. I mean, we didn't have a lot. Um, my mom and dad, they worked. My dad worked at we lived in Bay City, Michigan, where I was born, and my dad worked for General Motors, and my mom kind of did a little bit of everything. So she would um volunteer at our local doctor, the doctor's office. My brother and I had a lot of health problems when we were little. And so, because we didn't have the money to pay, what my mom would do was she'd volunteer at the doctor's office to kind of pay off those bills. So the doctor would write that off. No way in hell you could get that done today. Um,
Yeah, today
but
would
it
be a
was,
whole ordeal. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But outside of that, I mean, my parents did what they could for us. And when there was something that my brother and I wanted, like, when it got to Christmas time, stuff like that, they would always do what they could to make sure that Santa Claus, you know, and then on birthdays too and stuff like that. But then, we got older, and my dad he was a union carpenter and kind of climbed up the ladder, working as a carpenter, and did, the longer he worked for him, the more money he made. And, things got better for us when we got older. So, but the whole movie thing kind of kicked in when I was probably like 9 years old, and I watched Starsky and Hutch for the first time.
Starsky and
And
Hutch was what did it?
yeah, actually, that in the TV show SWAT.
I've
Um,
never heard that. Like I've heard so many people say like Star Wars or like Indiana Jones or something, you
mhm.
know. I never once hear Starsky and Hutch and I think that's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, originally I wanted to be an animator. I used to draw a lot when I was a kid. And I watched a lot of Wonderful World of Disney that was on Sunday nights. And
I didn't have Disney really growing up unless it was like the free Disney that they had. You know how sometimes
oh,
they would like offer the free, month or free week or whatever,
well, this was just regular television. ABC used to have, because when I was a kid, there were three networks. I'm 58 years old, so
Oh, okay.
So yeah, there was only three networks, and on Sunday nights at 7 o'clock, there was a TV show called The Wonderful World of Disney.
I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and they used to show, sometimes they'd show best of clips from their different animated movies. They would show they would do, oh god, they would show their like documentary stuff, and
Sometimes they
it
did
was,
other things too, like they did Davy Crockett and
yeah, yep, yep, that
I
was,
remember Mr. Boogedy from there,
yeah, exactly, exactly. So yeah, I mean, I wanted to be an animator, and then once everything kind of kicked in, when I started, the first time I got to see Starsky and Hutch and SWAT, then it really, I really kind of kicked in at that point. And then when I got older, I went to see Jaws, and it was all over
Yep,
pretty much.
Jaws will do it for you.
Yep. Yep. So my grandmother, when I was 15, she gave me a Super 8 camera. It was a Kodak Super 8 camera. It literally was a box. It was only about this big, and it had an eye viewer, and a lens. You couldn't focus it, you couldn't do anything, and it had a button that you push to turn it on and off. That was it. And I made a couple of animated movies that way, and then I got some friends together and started shooting stuff. And then when I was a senior in high school, my art teacher got me a scholarship for a weekend class, film class at the Art Center College of Design in Pasadena. And so I did that and learned a hell of a lot. And it just kind of went from there. And then I had a time where I kind of bailed out of the whole filmmaking thing. And because I decided that drinking on the weekends and being a DJ was more important.
Right. You had
So yeah.
priorities to.
Oh yeah, yeah, at 21, so but and again, I did make a couple of movies when I lived, and this is when I lived in California. I lived in Southern California for most of my life, from like 1974 until 1999. And then I worked in Hollywood for 5 years, 5.5 years actually, in post production, downtown Hollywood, a couple places there. I worked for Veritel Video, which then turned into EDS Digital Studios. And then I worked at Hollywood Digital, that was right on Sunset Boulevard, and learned a lot. Learned a lot. Learned a lot about
Was that
editing. Learned
sound
about,
design or what?
you know what? No, it was post production facility, and so everything at the facilities, both of them were facilities. So there was a lot of editing going on, color correction, and stuff like that. And I worked in the tape vault when I worked at Hollywood Digital, and so but in working in the tape vault, you're involved with every project that's going on.
Oh,
Like,
nice.
yeah, um we would do editing for a lot of Nickelodeon TV shows.
Like what? Like what?
Oh god, Cat Dog and Angry Beavers,
Oh, so
and
okay, animated
yeah,
shows
like
at least.
all the animated shows. And then they also cut trailers there.
Did
So
you do
when I worked,
Rugrats?
yeah, they did Rugrats as
Yeah,
well.
that's
Yep.
awesome. That
So
to me that I'm a little younger than you, just a little bit, but I'm a little
yeah.
younger than you. So the Rugrats was sort of what I grew up on as a kid,
Mm,
and stuff. So I adored that show. I adored Cat Dog a little bit. It was a little too weird for me, I guess. I wasn't,
yeah.
and I'm not an animated like lover. Like I liked Saturday morning cartoons. Then
Yeah.
after that, it wasn't really that into it. But yeah, I totally that would have been a dream for somebody who's absolutely into animation.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, but I got to meet a lot of people too. I got to meet John Milius. Um
What? You got to meet
who-
John
yeah,
Milius?
yes,
What was he
yes.
like?
He was amazing. I spent an hour with the dude. they were editing his Rough Riders series that he did, and
Nice.
I got to sit down with him for about an hour, and it was just me and him talking. It was they were taking a break from the editing, and I was taking a break from the tape vault, and I happened to go out on the patio where everybody went to sit down and eat and do whatever they're going to do, smoke. I smoked at the time, so, and he was sitting there all by himself, and I went, chance of a lifetime, you gonna pass that up? And so yeah, I sat down and talked to him about, Conan and Red Dawn and Apocalypse Now and Godfather and Coppola and Spielberg, and um he gave me some of the best advice ever, which was that don't wait for anybody. And I see it a lot now. People say it a lot, but he just says, if you're going to make movies, man, he says, just go out there and do it. He said,
Right.
don't wait for somebody to give you money. And back then, I mean, because that was in the 90s, and people weren't, you had indie filmmakers, but it was still film, and there
Right. And
weren't a lot of indie filmmakers.
like you
And
couldn't make Reservoir Dogs on Super 8, and
no,
be good, you know, and
no,
stuff. So I sort of get the whole like go out there and make a movie, thing, but back in the 90s, it's not as easy as like now we have all the digital
oh
equipment.
God, yes. Yes. And people rag all of the digital stuff, but I don't think anybody realizes that if we didn't have all of this digital stuff, I mean, yeah, you can say that the indie market is oversaturated now, but at the same time, those of us who love to make movies, I mean, absolutely love to make movies, can do it now, and me personally, I'm not making them to be famous, because I learned a long time ago, and that was something actually Milius had said to me. He says, if you're gonna make the movie, I said, how do you feel about everybody knowing you and being famous? And he's like, it sucks. He says, I'd rather nobody knew who I was, and so I could just go out and make movies.
Right.
um but we get the opportunity to do what we do, because of all of this digital technology. So as much as some people like to rag on it, and Tarantino is one of my favorites, um, up until after Kill Bill, everything after Kill Bill I could do without.
Really?
But oh yeah, I
Oh,
didn't
I
like it.
love Django. I don't know. There's just something about Django and Jane that I
Yeah,
oh, and
I
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is my favorite of his
yeah,
directing movies.
I
Like I love True Romance as his written movie, but
yeah,
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, I hold that up there because I don't know, it's just something about that movie. Just I just love it,
yeah.
And
I tried to love it. I tried to. I've watched everything that he's done after that,
right. You
but
don't
I
you
just
don't just say, "Oh, well, now I'm not going to watch any of his
no,
stuff."
yeah, it's to me, it was kind of one of those things. It's like Inglorious Bastards. I did not like at all. But that again, everything is
Inglorious
subjective.
Bastards, I feel like it goes, it it's a war movie, about a fake war in a way, fake
Yeah.
war stuff. And it, to me, I like Tarantino. I like his revisionist history stuff. I think it's kind of a neat thing to
Mhm.
do. But after a while of that movie, I feel like I just get bored after a little bit. Like I love all the Leonardo DiCaprio stuff. No, not Leo, Brad Pitt stuff.
Mhm.
Leonardo DiCaprio and Django. Both of them sort of have that feeling of like after a while it just kind of goes on a little bit too long, and then is like it's too long of a movie, like in my
Yeah,
opinion.
I think because Tarantino doesn't have anybody to dial him back,
No, he doesn't. Nobody will
that's
touch him.
why you get what you get. And Inglorious Bastards, I just kind of feel like his dialogue doesn't work for period movies. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
That was one of the things that I didn't like. That was the first Tarantino movie that I didn't like. Um, and then watching Django, I like my westerns without hip hop music in it. So,
I,
um,
that stuff
and
never bothered me, but I was like, you got Jamie Foxx up there, and I mean,
even Jamie Foxx, the only thing for me, the only thing good about that movie was DiCaprio's part, and then obviously,
he enjoyed himself.
yeah, you could tell he was having a lot of fun.
And he was having a lot of fun on Once Upon a Time in Hollywood too, and I think
But
that's another reason I
I
liked
don't
it.
know. I just didn't. It took too. That was one of those that took too long to get there for me.
Hmm.
So, and it's not that I don't have patience. Believe me, I sat through The Irishman twice.
I actually haven't seen that yet. I don't know
It
why. It's not because it's
it
too long. It's just, well, maybe it's too long. It's because it's too long. I have to long movies unless I'm sitting in a theater for like Marvel, or something. I can't. I can't. I'd have to like dedicate a day to watch the movie, or
right.
whatever. So I have to be like, okay, for the next 4 hours, I'm gonna dedicate to watching this movie. You know, it's just how it goes. It seems.
Right. Right. Well, yeah, so yeah, I mean, back to what I was saying as far as indie films goes, I just think that the digital thing has given us, excuse me, the ability to do stuff like Silence, like Misfit, like Psychotic Breakdown, which is going to be out here pretty soon, like Shadows of the Night. It gives us the ability to do the stuff that we want to do. It gives us the ability to tell our stories, and we don't have to deal with Hollywood, because I've worked, having worked in Hollywood. um I just don't have the lack of morals and integrity to work in Hollywood, because it sucks. Um, it was after that, because when I was younger, I was like, oh, I want to win an Academy Award. Oh, I want to be this. Yeah, I want to walk the red carpet. Yeah, I want to do this. And then after I worked there for 5 years and saw the lack of integrity that people had, and they didn't give a shit who they had to step on, and who they had to walk over, who they had to screw over to get to where they wanted to go.
You know,
I was like,
oh, go
yeah,
ahead. Sorry.
I was just like, I don't want anything to do with it. I don't fuck Hollywood. I don't want anything to do with it. So, and that has grown even more as I've gotten older. That I'm just going to make my movies, make what everybody calls your little movie, and I'm going to be okay with it, because I still get to tell my stories, and I don't have to bend a knee to anybody to be able to get it done.
Right. However, and it's a weird industry for the indie film industry too. There are a lot of people who will step on other people and
Oh
do
yeah.
things that, like, that, as if they're in Hollywood in the indie industry. And I'm like, I mean, my take on the indie industry is like, it's great that we're able to make any movie, whatever, right, and put it out. Most of the time, if you look on Tubi, most of the time the movies are bad. You know, they're just
Really
they're
bad.
they're
Really.
really bad. They should not have been made.
And you ask
How
yourself, somebody gave them money
or they
for
didn't. And that's the worst part is they do the thing that Milius said, which is go make your movie, right? They go and make
well,
this terrible movie, and
but
then
some have some take pride in it. That's the one thing that I think that the indie film guys have forgotten about, is taking pride in the quality of your work. I mean, even if you shoot something on you know like I shot one of the films that I did back in 1992, was called High Hopes. And we shot it on a 3-chip super VHS camera, and that was a beefy ass camera. But we also shot it on metal tape. Sony made these really nice high quality metal super VHS tapes, and the camera was, equal to a Betacam. And all you have to do is make sure that your shots are just have some kind of idea about how to set your camera up, because if you don't, then you get what looks like, you gave a 5-year-old a handy cam and told him to run around, even though somebody goes, oh, I shot that on a red. Okay, doesn't look like it, bro. So, so you can make anything look good as long as you're taking the time to set up your shots and block your actors, and that the writing is good. I think, shitty movies start with the writing.
Uh-huh.
And if the writing's bad, then it doesn't, and then at that point, then it doesn't matter how good of camera you use, or even if you know how to set up a shot. If your script sucks, then you get what you get. I mean, what is my question is, you say there's a lot of the indie movies are crap, but my question to you is, for you, I know what makes movies crap for me. What is crap for you?
So I do a show called Indie Film Cafe. I don't know if you know that or
Yeah.
not, but
Yeah.
and we have a stinkometer, right? So we rate our movies from 1 to 10, 1 being good, 10 being stinky, right?
Okay.
And stinky can sort of be good if you like enjoy bad movies, right? But
Which a lot
like,
of people seem to.
yeah, I mean, I sometimes gravitate toward, like, I'll watch The Room. It's so bad, but it's so fun, right?
Yeah.
But The Room is on a whole nother level because they had the money. They had the everything. The script was terrible because Tommy is not a writer and doesn't
Right.
speak English very well.
Right.
So a lot of it was just sort of, and everybody had to pretty much say it the way Tommy wrote it, and it just sounds really terrible when actors do that. Um, and that's the thing is like, what makes a movie bad is if you can't see it. You can't see what's going on. You can't
Yep.
hear what's going on. The sound is terrible.
Yep.
The dialogue makes no sense to what's going on in the movie.
Mhm.
Um, and I'm not going to say the name or anything. I'm not going to call anybody out. There's directors, more than one directors out there that shoot movies very fast, like 3 or 4 days and stuff,
Yeah.
right? And they
Yeah.
get a feature film done in 3 to 4 days. And they shoot basically with no script, barely or whatever. If they have a script, it doesn't seem like it. And then they take the scenes, and the scenes are just boring. There's like nothing
Yeah.
going on for half the movie.
Hmm.
Even if they're in a whole nother location, whole nother group of people, it's either somebody walking or two people walking with no dialogue, things like that. It's like, get to the get to what's going on. And
Gotcha.
my co-host always says, and you nailed it though, Todd, you nailed it with the fact that like the writing, he always says that writing is free, you know, just getting on you don't even need a script writing software. Just learn where to put things and you can make it
Mm.
like a play. It doesn't matter. People are going to take the script anyway if you're making it with yourself.
Yeah,
So
if you're not
just,
selling to anybody, it doesn't matter. I mean, I somebody gave me shit about my because I still use that. What is it? Celtics. I don't know how
oh,
everybody pronounces.
Celtics. Yeah. I used to like
I,
Celtics.
I use that all the time. I still have the really old version of it, so it's not
It's
online. It's
free.
still
Yeah. Yeah.
my computer. And somebody said, "Oh, you must have wrote this. This isn't what's the name of
Final
that?
draft.
Final Draft." Well, this isn't Final Draft. And I'm like, dude, I'm not selling this bitch to anybody. I'm making it myself. Does it fucking matter?
I mean, the thing is, yes, Final Draft is industry standard. However, or so it was. I think now
Yeah, it's
other things have taken over, like maybe Fade In or
yeah,
Magic Movie Screenwriter. But it doesn't matter unless you're selling the movie
exactly.
to a company. And even then, I sent in a script. It was not formatted the right way for a television thing. Sent it into a
Mhm.
script writing contest with a sort of they kind of gave it like some notes. And the
Yeah.
one thing they said is there was punctuation problems, but all that can be fixed in, by anybody, whatever. So like
Right.
they don't even look at that anymore. They just look at, is this a good story?
Yeah.
Is
Is the
it
story any good? Did you grab me in the first two pages? That's to me, that's all that should matter anymore. I remember you were talking about um how the indie crowd is now just no different than Hollywood. And I think what a lot of that is these guys, and it didn't used to be like that. I mean, when I lived in California and I was getting started, I used to take I took directing classes from a guy named Jim Pasternak, fucking awesome, awesome, awesome directing teacher. And he, we had one of the Janets. I always forget which one. The Janet and Janet casting
Oh, right.
uh, people that you see all the time. We had one of them in our class. A guy named Michael Nathanson. His name is like all over stuff from the 90s,
Oh,
from like
nice.
Patriot Games, um, Empire Records.
What did he do for them?
He was one of the producers.
Producers. Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. So anyway, but he was in the class. And the one thing that indies used to have was everybody was always rooting for the other one, because we all wanted to get to the goal, which was just getting our movies done and getting them seen. And that's all we gave a shit about. And that was where I think where everything went south. And there are other indie filmmakers that argue with me about that, and they can argue with me because, well, it's America and you can do that. Um, but they're wrong, because because it for me, having seen the birth of the film festival, and how film festivals after Sundance screwed over the indie crowd. Then you had Slam Dance. Well, Slam Dance screwed over the indie crowd. And now there's, 50,000 of these things. And what I saw as things were progressing, when you started getting even more and more of the film festivals, it just then all of a sudden it's not about making movies anymore. It's about a competition. And then what happened with that is all of that shit filtered over into just the indie filmmakers themselves. Now where we're at is they don't they're just trying they'll the amount of shit talking that's out there that people will do. Again, now we're back to, it's not about getting the movie done anymore. It's let's go ahead and try to sabotage as many people as we can, so we can so my movie will be successful. Well, the only way your movie is going to be successful is if you fucking market it correctly. It looks halfway decent, it has a good story, and this is all circling back to what you and I were just talking about. you know and I wish that there was that kind of camaraderie in the indie film world as there was,
In the
even
90s.
10 years ago, Jonathan.
Yeah.
10 years ago it was still pretty good, but now it's
I don't
literally,
know. I think 10 years ago is when it started to
well,
kind of go
that's
that
what
way.
I'm saying. Oh, so 10 years ago before that.
Yeah.
So,
I think early 2000s it was good because I was seeing so many people because I mean, oh, you know what it was? I think honestly it's social media. Like this sounds terrible, but like because social
well,
media is the greatest marketing thing ever, but it can also be the greatest way to sabotage people
yep,
and
yep,
screw over. I mean, I if it weren't for social media, we wouldn't be having this conversation and stuff. We wouldn't be doing
absolutely
this.
not. No,
So like not at all am I saying social media is a bad thing. I'm saying it
on some levels,
there are
the
some
bad thing.
levels it is great and some levels it is terrible.
Yeah,
And you know what? I'm not gonna lie. There's probably times where I've been sort of a dick, on social
yeah,
media and stuff.
uh-huh.
Because
Me too.
you can only get treated like a dick so long before you start retaliating, becoming a dick, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Something that happened to me a while ago, where somebody or where I made a film that was fairly good. It's hard for me to watch it because of what happened after it got finished. People got, and the other thing that you got to throw in the mix are egos.
Ego. Yep.
Egos run absolutely rampant, and it's funny that it's a lot of the people that have those egos are people that really
Shouldn't.
the kind of work you do, dude, you shouldn't have that kind of ego, and then there's the attention hounds where everything is, oh, I'm gonna quit, oh, I'm not gonna do this, oh, I don't want to do this anymore, and a week later they're like, hey, I got this new movie I'm gonna do. But it's kind of it's just kind of one of those things that that I think that we just need to prop each other up and stop making it a competition. I don't think that I don't think we'll ever get back to that, because it's, the whole next, the next generation of filmmakers coming up behind us are that's what they know and that's what they learn. And until they're taught something different, it doesn't get, the chain doesn't break. It just kind of keeps doing this. So
I agree. And the biggest problem too with social media is also the advantage of like Indiegogo and things like that, which is amazing.
mhm.
Like if you thought about it in the 1990s, if somebody had that power to get their indie films done, people might have gotten the chance to do it, whatever. But
Mhm.
it became oversaturated and everything.
Yeah.
In fact, I was talking about it the other day, is like I don't like raising funds.
See,
I'm just not a fan of it,
I hate it. I
Uh,
hate it. Yeah, I agree with you. I'm sorry. I'll let you
oh no,
finish.
no, I was actually going to ask about that for you because you've made your own films. I mean, have you gone the crowdfunding route?
I went the crowdfunding route on a series. We did a series a while back called Surviving the Undead. Did it all on my own dollar. Everybody worked for free. It took us 6 months working every weekend for 6 months to get this series done. It's actually available if you go to Spark, SPARKK TV.com. You can see the whole series there. But we did this series, and then I wanted to do a second season,
Hmm.
and went, crowdfunding was pretty new at that point. And so because Kickstarter was the only option you had at that point. And so I did this campaign. I was trying to raise, I don't know, I think I was only trying to raise like 6 or 7 grand. And I barely got to 1,500. And it was
And
just
then
not.
the Kickstarters, you have to get it all, or
Yeah.
you don't
Yep.
make it.
Exactly. So we lost, we didn't get the whole thing. So we lost all of it. But it was, you know, I guess I just, because growing up, when I was a kid, and I think this is where it stems from me asking anybody for money. I just, it's the hardest thing in the world, because when I was younger, if I asked my parents for money, well, what do you need the money for? Well, how are you going to spend it? Well, what are you going to do with it? Why do you need $10? Why do and it was a lot of, I'm not going to say that my parents were assholes about it, but they were kind of assholes about it, which is okay. I mean, it's their money, and
Right.
it's literally the same thing. The only thing you're doing is now you're asking people for thousands of dollars.
And
And
sometimes people you don't even know, with
exactly,
thousands of dollars.
exactly,
And
exactly.
and
So
and that is in investing generally.
exactly,
Investors, you don't know the person and you're going to
exactly,
ask, some guy who runs an investment firm or something, and
Right.
ask, angel investors. But
Yeah.
in this sense, it can be it can be annoying when, and I probably did this years ago and I didn't realize how terrible it was. But it shouldn't be your first introduction to somebody on Facebook saying, hey, can I'm making a movie, can you give me money?
Yep.
Because that's very impersonal. Somebody even taught me, like, don't do that. Start a conversation with the person.
Yep. Yep.
Don't even like start it for a couple weeks. Then be like, oh, by the way, I'm doing this, and stuff.
Well,
But
and
even then, I don't like it.
that's just good manners.
Yeah.
No, I mean, to me, it's like if you know somebody has money to invest, and the only reason you're talking to them, or if you're trying to get somebody to invest in your crowdfunding, Shadows of the Night, right back here, Indiegogo, you can look that up. Um,
Oh, Shadows and Night is on Indiegogo.
yes, yeah,
Nice.
we've raised almost $4,000 in the last 7 days. Um,
Sweet.
so yeah, we're trying to get to about 15,000. But
Yeah, it's a lofty goal these days because,
yeah,
you have to defeat everybody else who's doing it too.
well, and the other thing is I feel like crowdfunding, and I mentioned this, um, talking to a friend, the crowdfunding thing. I feel like that money, I would rather be be beholden to, if that's the right term, to an investor who has given me, let's say, $50,000. I would rather, having that money, I feel like you're going to be more responsible and work harder to make sure that that movie is good, to make sure it sounds good, to make sure it looks good, to make sure the script is good, because you're being held accountable. Whereas crowdfunding, you're not. And I've seen a lot of stuff that comes out of crowd, guys that are getting 250, $300,000. Now there's a handful of those, you may or may not know. Some of these guys are selling roles. If you give them $20,000, you can have the lead role in their
Well,
movie. And
I've done
that's,
that before, but it wasn't like lead roles, or whatever. And
yeah,
in fact, one guy did it on his own dime, came out and did a great
mhm,
job. And then I told him after that, we're gonna be paying you the next time to come out and everything
right,
and stuff. But he
right.
did it,
Well,
you know. mm,
but to me, again, for crowdfunding, I feel like you're not being held accountable for the money a lot of times, because once you get that money, you can do whatever the fuck you want. And
mm.
I know, I'm pretty sure you've seen some of these guys that have taken this money and then they're gone. They disappear. I've seen that
They
multiple times.
never make the movie or
Never,
whatever, or never even try, I guess. I
they
mean,
take them and they disappear.
for me, a
And
lot of it was, and I hated Indiegogo back in the day because it wasn't the, you make all of it and die, or whatever. So you actually, if you only made $100, you got that $100, you have to give it either back or save that 100 for, trying to raise the money for the next one,
right.
next time. And sometimes people don't like it and everything. And I get it. Like, I'm still working. There's one project I'm trying to finish this year that, that's taken me like over 10 years to make, and stuff. And I
I
can't
get
wait
that.
for it to be done, but it's not a feature now because we just didn't have the money to make it, but
Mhm.
it is what it is. Like,
Yeah.
do you
Yeah,
want
I
it
get
done
it.
or do you want it not done?
Well, and I again, it's well, and I know what it's like to have a movie that you want to get done. I've got a script that I wrote called The DJ, and it's a very personal movie. It's about me as a DJ back in the 80s.
I was going to
And
ask about that because you mentioned you were a DJ earlier.
Yeah. So I wrote a script about that because somebody asked me one time what it was like to be a DJ in the '80s. I said it was the closest fucking thing to being a rock star without having to without having to know how to play an instrument. Um, and because when I learned how to DJ and I was crazy off the hook. I learned how to DJ as not only playing music but being the host of the party. So, I learned how to entertain and play music at the same time.
Nice.
So it was, when I DJ'd, you got a fucking show. I mean, it was, but we also had great music back then. We had Michael Jackson and Janet Jackson and Two Live Crew and
Crisscross. They make you
Chris
want to
Cross.
jump,
No,
jump.
no, no, Chris Cross hadn't come out yet. That was the '90s.
That was the
But
90s. I forgot.
but
I
I
thought
was
that was my those were my jams.
Yeah, we had AC/DC. I mean, Ted Nugent and Scandal and Berlin, and it was all of the really cool '80s Run DMC. So
Run
you know,
TMC, baby.
yeah, I mean that was Run DMC before Walk This Way. So it's like that, and that's the way it is. So so yeah, it was an awesome time. And somebody told me one time, well, you should write a book about it. And I was like, well, yeah, I guess I could do that, but I'm not good at writing books, and I'm better at writing scripts. So I wrote this script, and everything in that script, as far as music goes, I've got like 32 songs in that movie.
So this would be
But
a Hollywood movie.
um it doesn't have to be. It could be. um but it because of not just because of the music, the music is in there, but every piece of music has a purpose. It's not just like I decide, oh, I wanted to throw white lines in here. No, it actually has a reason. Point of No Return by Expose is in there. That has a reason. I mean,
Hmm.
everything, the music is just as much of a character in the film as the characters themselves. And I did a budget on it and everything. I mean, it's a $10 million. It doesn't sound like a lot, but it's a $10 million movie. 3.5 million is in music rights alone.
Wow.
So yeah, it's but if it ever gets made, it's one of those things I keep pushing, you know, to see what I can do to get this movie done. And every so often I get a bite and somebody said, well, I don't have that kind of money, but if you can get somebody else, you know. So it's kind of one of those things. It's like I'm kind of gathering all my fruit and getting it in one basket. Hopefully within the next few years I can get that done. But it'd be one of those movies that would be like Saturday Night Fever. I mean, it would be that kind of fun. It would be that kind of storyline. Not the same storyline, but I mean the type of storyline that Saturday Night Fever was.
Right.
And so it's one of those things that like you're just like this and hoping you can get it done.
Yeah.
um so so
I mean,
yeah.
it's hard work a lot of time period from once again I mentioned I don't like development,
Right,
like
right,
I like writing, I like the writing part of development. I like getting the project started, the creative stuff.
right.
The more and I think producing, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, but I think producing is very creative, you know? And
Yeah,
so a lot of people think it's technical or it's, whatever, but I think it's very creative because the producers have to figure out ways to get around things to make things work, or
right.
whatever. So producing is very creative. I like producing. I love directing because it's creative, and I like writing because and acting because it's creative. So I like all those things. I do not like the technical stuff. I don't like editing. I don't like I mean, I don't mind being there with an editor and seeing the shots and stuff.
Right.
I mean, because that's creative. But I don't like, I don't like sitting there and for hours on end putting things together. Like to me,
Yeah, that's my favorite part.
that's
That's
your
my
favorite part.
Yeah. Believe it or not, it's kind of funny. Somebody looked at me and thought I was just a nut when I said um we were it was what were we I think we were shooting Silence. And when we're shooting Silence, my buddy John Briner, who played the dad in Silence, he
Oh, I
leans over.
loved him. He was great.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, he was good. He leaned over to me and he goes, "Hey man," he says, "isn't this just like the fucking coolest thing?" He says, "We're making a movie." Now, John had been on another project where I didn't know him. It was actually a project that I met him on. And I leaned over to him. I said, "Dude, you're gonna hate me when I tell you this." I said, "This, I fucking hate this part. I hate the shooting part."
Really? I love the
Yeah.
shooting part. I don't
and
know.
and and it's weird because I guess I hate it rolling up into it. Once I get going, I'm okay with it and I'm good with it. I just it's just kind of one of those things that, especially when you're doing something where where you're not paying anybody, you don't have the budget to pay anybody, you've got enough to pay for food, maybe some costume, some wardrobe, and maybe some props, but that's about the extent of it.
Hmm.
And even then, you're stretching, maybe not paying your water bill this month or something to get there. But it's it's I don't know. I just the shooting part of it, it's just like, God, I wish hurry up, get it over with so I can get into the editing room and make this fucking thing.
We're the
You know?
exact opposite. I'm in the creative stuff, and I'm like, all right, let's just, let's slow this down. Every day is so amazing. Like I'm
Right.
in the moment. I think it's also the actor part. I don't know. I don't know if you're an actor as well, but I think it's an
I've
actor
done a
thing
little bit.
too. It's like I love being on sets, period. So
Right.
when I'm on a set, I just feel at home, you know, and everything. So it just feels good. The editing bay, I don't really do that. So I have an amazing editor that I use named Chris Roll, who I use for most of my stuff these days, and he knows how to do it, So he goes there and he just pieces everything together, sends it to me. I might go, was there another take on this one? Because I didn't like that, and then send it back, right. And then he goes and tweaks some things, sends it back to me, and I'm like, this is great. Or he'll come over and show me. That part I hate because I don't like sitting there going, okay,
Right.
good, moving on.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, I guess because I learned how to do everything. I was also, before I worked in Hollywood, I kind of jumped around. I worked with a guy named Larry Simeon, who did a movie with Al Sapienza, he was on the first season of The Sopranos. He was Uncle June's little sidekick that got blown away at the end of the first season when he was jogging. Paulie and Chris went out and blew him away. And then he was also on what was that Netflix show with Kevin Spacey?
oh, House of
Um,
Cards.
yeah, House of Cards. He was in House of Cards. Anyway, he was on there, and James Madio was in it. James was in. He was actually just on the Paramount Plus, The Offer, and
Oh, well, who's he in the offer?
he was one of Giovanni Ribisi's guys. He got blown
Okay,
away.
because there's like Lou Ferrigno, and then there was a
Yeah,
couple other guys.
he was the smallest guy,
Okay.
but James was also, he was Perconte in Band of Brothers. So and before, when I met him, he had done Hook. He was one of the main Lost Boys in
One of
Hook.
the main Lost. I actually met
Yeah,
a Lost Boy too, so it's funny. Like,
yeah,
well, a friend of mine introduced me to him and stuff. So it's neat because I grew up on, like, once again, 90s, So
yeah,
that was,
yeah.
I didn't care if it was Steven Spielberg because back then I didn't really know who directors were. Like,
Right,
I was
right,
just like,
right.
there's a Peter Pan movie I can watch.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I mean, working on that, you learned. I was the second AD, but I learned how to do everything. I learned how to be the first AD because the first AD had gotten sick and had to leave for a couple of days. So I wound up stepping into the first AD, and I had never done it before. I didn't know what the fuck to do. I just jumped in, and I just I got there early and learned everything that had to be done in like literally 15 minutes.
Were you a nice AD or a mean
No, I
AD?
was I was actually Al Sapienza was one of the producers of this film. It was called The Gifted. And my my time as a first AD, I did so well that Al wanted to fire the other dude and
Like, and
make
just keep you, right?
Well, because the days that we were shooting, the schedule was really tight. We had a pool room scene that we had to shoot, and it had a fight, but we only had 5 hours in this pool room, and we had 3 scenes to shoot in the pool room. I got with the DP at the beginning, and I said, okay, what do we need to do? He goes, well, I want to do this. And him and the director were there, and they had their storyboards. Okay, we want to do this, we want to do this, and we want to do this setup, we want to do this setup. And so it was like we got we got it. I got everybody set up. Kept everybody quiet. Everybody got in. How much more time you got? How much more, you know, do we need to get this light? All right, guys, come on, let's move this thing. Let's move this thing. I wasn't a dick. I just was pushing and getting everybody to do it because I knew we had 5 hours and that was it. And the scenes weren't short. And when you got a fight scene in there as well, there's that shortens the time span even more because then it's blocking and okay, I'm going to punch you here. And the blocking for that thing took 35 minutes. So but because I kept everybody moving, not only did they get done what they wanted done on their shooting script, but I got them through it with enough time to even get more stuff than they had planned on getting. It's like, oh shit, well, we got an hour left. I said, okay, so here, let's do this. I said, what do you want to get? And they were just talking about like close-ups and stuff on the pool table that they originally were thinking they were going to do another time with a different pool table since it was just close-ups on that. I said, okay, let's do this. Why don't you guys get this stuff? I turned around, I said, tell me what you don't need. So they said, don't need that, don't need that, don't need that. So, and because there was no sound on this, the guy, the director was, he just said, okay, no sound on this. I turned around, I looked at the grips and the guys. I said, okay, all this shit needs to go. Take it out to the truck. So that way, when we came down to it to leave, we had 2 lights and the camera equipment, and then we could get out of there. So I mean, and we were still out of there 10 minutes before we had to be.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, so it was just one of those things that I learned about that. I learned I learned about the lighting. I learned about the electrical stuff, what to plug in, what not to plug in. I also learned watching a producer on this thing that a light got knocked over, and he spent 2.5 hours trying to playing the blame game on who broke it, and instead of just putting the light back, it wasn't destroyed, it broke the fucking bulb. It was a 10K. You gotta put a new bulb in the light and just keep shooting. So
Hmm.
I almost got fired because I just said, how much longer are we going to spend trying to blame somebody for what happened? I said, for the 2 hours that we've been standing around listening to you shoot your mouth off, we could have been shooting. Well, who the fuck are you? I said, I'm the guy that's trying to keep things moving.
What were you at that time?
I was the second AD,
Okay. Yeah. So,
but I
uh,
also I was in charge of the extras. So I had 20 extras sitting in the background, and I'm like, can we just move this along? And so it was kind of something that I learned and I carried into. It doesn't matter how it got broke. It broke. Fix it and fucking move on. And
right.
that was kind of and that seriously, that has never stopped where Hollywood is concerned. Um, it's like, let's not fix it. Let's stand around and point fingers and blame everybody and see, how much time we can waste. And
Yeah, exactly. I've seen that a lot, and I was watching Project Greenlight, and that happened sort of thing where everybody was
yeah,
arguing about something or whatever, and I was like, the time you guys are arguing right now, you could be getting setting up to get ready to go shoot, argue
yeah.
after, or whatever. I mean, unless it's literally like the worst thing that possibly happened, like somebody set fire to something and you need to.
Well, yeah, that's different. But if all
Right.
you did was knock over a light and the only thing
Yes.
that's wrong with the light is the light bulb, change the fucking light bulb.
Change the light bulb. There's other
Turn
light
the light
bulbs. Go to
back
the
up.
hardware store as quickly as you can,
Let's shoot.
and shoot.
So
Yeah, keep shooting.
yep.
Um, you know, it reminds me like the movie Ed Wood. That's one of my favorite films. Just
I
where they're
love
just
that.
like, keep going,
Oh,
like, keep
yep.
rolling. It doesn't matter if you bump into
Don't worry
something.
about it. Don't worry about it.
Nobody will even notice.
It
And
happens in
everybody
real.
notices, but it doesn't matter because they made the fucking movie. You know,
Yep. Yep.
because like that's the
Exactly.
thing, that's the problem. That's why a lot of films don't get finished and stuff is arguing or people leaving or people whatever and whatnot
Ego.
when they just finish the fucking
Ego.
movie.
Yeah.
you know um so I want to go into a lot of like stuff with silence because I did just watch it
Okay.
and I did really
Okay.
really enjoy it, and I think it's a very powerful and moving film, and I hope more people see it. I know it's on Tubi and stuff, but it
People have been watching it because I've been getting my payouts from Tubi for silence, and people are watching that movie a
good. I'm
lot.
glad to hear that.
Yeah.
So first of all, it says sort of was based on a true story. Can you go into that a little bit?
Well, it was based on something that I read about, and then it was a woman that was attacked in her home, and then the issues. Now we actually made, let me back up just a little bit. The I made a short film version of it, which is available also on Spark TV. It's called Silence. I made a short film version of it with another actress, probably 3 or 4 years before I made the feature. And I had read about a woman that was attacked, and part of what happens with someone who is sexually assaulted like that, it doesn't just there. A lot of people focus on the the victim themselves, but I think what a lot of times what people forget is what happens also to the people around them. How it doesn't just a rape never just affects one person.
Right.
It affects everyone around them. It affects the family. It affects the friends. It can even affect, like in our film, even the psychiatrist. Um,
Well,
so
I have to say that psychiatrist is amazing. I loved her, but man,
yeah, Heather.
she her character in the beginning was like, I don't want to do this. I don't, I want a professional setting. I don't want to do that. And you kind of see, I guess, her, kind of get more involved with Caitlin and everything. But I just like in the beginning, she was rough around the edges, and then she had to like sort of warm up, I think.
Yeah, and that's one of the things when I write my stuff. Something I learned from watching Michael Mann's Heat. That was the first time I ever watched a film where there was nobody in this movie that you didn't give a shit about. Um, it was like there were the bad guys and the good guys, but all of the bad guys, they all had lives, and you knew who their wives were, you knew who their kids were, even if they were only there for a short period of time in the film. um, they all had lives. And then you had all the cops and Pacino's, what his life was like, and what you knew the other guys that were a part of his group, the families that they had wives and kids and stuff. So when you get to the big shootout at the end of the film, spoiler alert, when people start dying, you're not like, yeah, it's not like watching Die Hard where,
Right, where he's taking out all the bad guys and you're
taking out
happy.
the bad guys and you're like, oh, yeah, fucking shoot him again. And you're watching Heat and um everybody's getting shot. You're like, Tom Sizemore takes one to the forehead, but you're like, wow, man, that dude had, you know, 3 kids. He had a wife. So I just remember after seeing that, I thought to myself, when I'm writing from here on out, I'm going to make sure that everybody has some kind of existence, even if there's just this much shown. And that was one of the things that I did with the doctor's character was, to show that not all psychiatrists are are blocks of stone, that they have that sometimes what happens behind the closed doors in their sessions can affect them as well. So that was part of, and that's what I wanted to, and that was the whole thing. I thought, what, everybody in this movie is going to have a character arc. Usually you only have like a handful of your main actors that are going to have character arcs, and then everybody else will just, like minions, follow
Mm-hmm.
however you're going to have them follow. But it's, I just decided on that project that I wanted to make sure that everybody had a character arc. Everybody had an arc. So it changed. What happened to Caitlin is going to change every single person and do something to them
Right.
that is going to, that what happened to her was not just going to affect her. Obviously you wanted to show that, but then I sprinkled in, with her friends, how much that affected them.
Yeah, like
And
Tasha, but even Tasha, Tasha character had an arc before because she got attacked and stuff
yep, yep,
by the guy who gets accused, and you think I was like, I mean, I've seen it of like horror films and stuff, which this was
right,
not a horror film, but I sort of like it has that sort of trope of like a fake out, like this guy's a red herring. He's,
yeah,
obviously
yeah,
you're supposed to think he's, you know, he's too obvious of the guy, and then there is a little bit of a twist at the end, and I won't spoil it because I want people to go see it. There's a little twist at the end where you don't know what the hell's going on, and it
right,
gets very confusing at one point. And I
right.
like that. And even the ending sort of, I might have to talk to you afterwards because the ending was great, but it just sort of like made me wonder about things. So I think that's what your
Well,
point was.
and that was the thing. I mean, somebody gave me, when it first got on Amazon, they were talking, they were like, oh, this movie was really good up until the end, kind of like a Stephen King book. And and I thought, well, that's
That's a
good.
compliment.
That's a compliment. But at the same time, it's like it wasn't an NCIS episode. It wasn't girl is raped. Now we have to find the rapist. Who's the rapist? And
Because life
at
isn't
that,
like that.
no, it's not.
Sometimes life doesn't, close chapters on you, sometimes
Exactly.
you'll,
Exactly.
she claims she never saw the attacker, and if she never saw the attacker,
Right.
then she really doesn't know who did it. It could be
Exactly.
anybody.
Yeah.
Um, honestly, I think, and this is my personal opinion, and obviously there's probably other people who have different opinions, but I think it's nobody we know. Like it's just some random person who's just in the house that just
And
wrong
that
time.
was the whole point. That was the whole point. Originally, I was going to have Judas be the rapist, but then I went, but it's too obvious.
It's too obvious, and honestly, I would have hated it. Like I hate to say this, but I would have hated that
Yeah.
because um I would have felt like it's a sort of a cop out. Like
Yeah.
we need him to be the bad guy. I like the idea of like not knowing and wondering who it possibly could have been,
Right.
kind of thing. And knowing that like the people I could rule out, like I'm pretty sure of a few people, like, that it probably wasn't. But even then, you kind of show it where it could be somebody, it could have been somebody because they have, everybody has these ways of like manipulating you, and making
Yeah.
you feel like, like you're fine. And then it could be the boyfriend or whatever. And
Right.
he, it could have been him, but because like he had no other, like wait, like we didn't know, like so
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
love that. That's the kind of stuff I love to see is just ideas of like who the hell could it been, but me thinking in my head it's just somebody random actually makes it even worse, you know?
Well, and that again, that was kind of the point when I was doing the original outline, just trying to figure out what was going to happen from scene to scene. And when I came down to that, do I want to tell everybody? And then a lot of people would come up to me after they watched the movie. Like when we had the premiere, we had like a full house at this premiere, man. There was
Nice.
a couple hundred people at this thing, and people were coming up to me afterwards. Who did it?
Hmm.
I said, nobody in the movie. I said,
Yeah.
I don't. I said, does it matter? The whole point of it wasn't again when I say it's not a CSI episode where we're trying to find out who the rapist was. Um, this was, I wanted to show what happened to this girl and what happened to her friends and family after that happened. And that was the point of the movie, not to have it happen and then have to find out who the rapist is. So it was that's how I put the movie together, and I really, because it was more of a character study, and it was more of a dramatic telling of something that has happened, unfortunately, hundreds of thousands of times. It
Hmm.
happens every 2 minutes. It says it in the poster that I have. Every 2 minutes, somebody in the United States is sexually assaulted.
And that
And
was that a statistic you looked
yeah,
up?
that's a statistic.
So
Yep.
I wonder if that's still true. Like, I
Yes,
don't.
I looked it up again because I wanted to use some of that in the description to put it on the streaming channels, and I wanted to make sure that it was still relevant from what was that, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, and it is. So
That's just sad because I mean, there's so many people in the world, period, anyway.
yeah,
So I mean, there's
yeah,
there's chance that it's like a 1 minute, every 1 minute, somebody's
yeah.
being attacked. But I just um it got brutal and it got pretty nasty,
Mhm.
I mean, once again, almost kind of horror like, and I know you've done horror, so it
Right.
kind of felt like that. But I mean, it's obviously very dramatic. It's a drama piece. And by the way, Elizabeth, it's really
Elizabeth.
hard to.
It's
I
just
kind of don't like people that have like names like that because it's just hard to say because you can't say Liz, like
yeah.
instead of
Well,
Liz.
it's Elizabeth. You don't have
Elizabeth, she's
to
sweet.
ever.
I adored her in the beginning, and I even adored her at the end because I kept thinking, I feel for her. Like
Yeah.
I and I think maybe it's my how I am now because I bet 10 years ago or even 20 years ago, I might have been feeling different, or whatever, and been like, why is she still being like that? But like nowadays, and knowing trauma and how screwed up it can get, where she's in her brain, man. Like that's all that stuff is happening over and over in her thoughts, the PTSD and everything. And
Yep.
she is completely 100% angry, like
Yep.
she doesn't know how to stop it and everything.
Well,
And
and I did a lot of homework, and went to some websites, and that are for rape victims and talked to some of the people on those websites. I contacted them and sent emails, and they all were very helpful in when you're trying to portray something, you want to make sure you get it right, because there's nothing worse than giving you the Hollywood version of something that's really it's not okay to give you the Hollywood version of. And so I wanted to make sure that I got it right. I wanted to make sure that the PTSD was right. I wanted to make sure that the reactions from the friends and family were right, so it was just kind of one of those things. And it was really funny because I got a lot of people that were like, wait a minute, you're an indie filmmaker and you make a drama. Well, yeah. Yeah.
That's what you're supposed to do. That's what they did back in the day, in the 90s. That's what they were doing, is making dramas, because those were what got into film festivals.
Right,
Horror films don't go into film festivals unless it's a horror film festival,
right,
you know?
right. So it was just kind of one of those things that I just, it was a subject I wanted to. After doing the short film, I just thought, God, being able to expand this thing and really show, because in the short film we just start, literally what was in the short film was most of the ending of
Uh,
the other film. We show a couple of things at the beginning of the short film, but then the majority of the film is kind of what happened at the end.
you
um
gotta get to that, like it's a
well, and
short.
that's why with the, yeah, exactly. So, and I just wanted to really expand the story and really give it a lot of exposition and show this girl's existence before all that happened, and yeah, it's a slow burner and it takes a little time to get there, but
I didn't see.
it,
Okay, you have a different definition of slow burn than I do,
what is your
uh there are slow burn horror films that I absolutely can't. I tried, like the Innkeepers. I love Ty West. I think he's the most like, I love X. I think it's great. Innkeepers is one of the slowest movies. I got bored so quickly with that one. I need to rewatch it. Maybe it'll be different. But this, I didn't feel like this was boring. To me, slow burns are boring. Like there's a lot of build up, but a lot of it's kind of whatever. I think what you did was you established a lot of character development way
uh,
before the stuff happened. Um, my only my only thing is, like, generally speaking, and this is nothing, this isn't a criticism toward you or anything, but this is
dude,
generally
I'm tough,
what
man. I can take criticism, believe me.
what I normally notice is that uh that stuff would normally happen about 25 pages in by the end of the first act, 25 minutes in,
Right, right.
the that stuff would happen, and then you would get the rest of the story. But what I liked about yours was, because I was looking at the clock and stuff. I do that now because I'm anal about movies these days. I'll look at the clock and I'll say, okay, so it's gone past 25 minutes. And so the first, act is a little longer than whatever, but what you've done is you've established way more character development. You've introduced all the friends, the father, the dead mother, all of that stuff, all in, the span of, I think it was like 30 something minutes before we get to the act.
37 minutes.
37 minutes until the attack happens. But then that's when, like, the second act and the third act, and everything. And it's a little longer than some indies. I think it's like an hour and 37 minutes or something.
Yeah, yeah,
You know,
and I cut 25 minutes out of it.
for real.
Yeah, I
Was it
did.
out of the beginning or out of the end?
Throughout,
Okay.
there was stuff that we shot didn't that didn't make it into it.
Do you have a DVD? Is that like deleted scenes on a DVD?
No, I don't. It's I because I edited when I was editing. I just there was some things about my program that had been updated and were new.
Oh, you
So
lost them?
I I don't no, I didn't lose it. It would just be something I'd have to dig back in
Oh, okay.
and find the original footage, and put it back together. It was like I deleted it out of the timeline and didn't save it in another sequence. So there's, it's instead of having the 2 hour and 5 minute version, um, it's I don't have that original cut saved, so I'd have to go back in and dig out those other scenes. But and some of the stuff too, I cut the scenes down. um and there were some things where you look at and you go, okay, that needs to end sooner. How can I get to that sooner without doing any reshoots? And so I was able to edit scenes down as well and just make them shorter. And so yeah, it was a tough one to go through, because you love, and there's some stuff in there that had some really nice shots, but there was no substance. So
Right.
it was kind of pointless. So it doesn't matter. And I learned that from George Lucas a long time ago. It doesn't matter how pretty your set is. You don't need to show everybody your set in the movie. It's like, it exists. There you go. Get out of it. And so,
I don't know. He
um,
likes to put things back into his movies and stuff that weren't
well,
originally there.
yeah, that was after he did the first thing. And yeah, I'd rather not go there. George
That's
Lucas,
it. Well, I
his,
mean, I was talking to somebody the other day who met George Lucas and stuff and everything back in the day, but I was like, he's a billionaire now. He doesn't give a crap about anything. Like literally, like he's just sitting on his ranch doing nothing, for the rest of
yep,
his life. I mean,
yep,
how awesome is that? Good for him.
yep.
Um, Now he's not messing with things, but I want Disney to start doing the stuff that he wouldn't do. I'm guessing there's probably contract stuff with that. Anyway, that's old.
Yeah, don't get me started on Disney. I don't even want to have that conversation. We'll never go to bed.
Oh Lord.
They have
Um,
they have
I
ruined
I
Star Wars.
absolutely love chatting with you about this stuff. Silence, I think once again, I think I'm glad that people are watching it on Tubi and that you say
Yeah,
it's doing really well, which is great. I hope more and more people check it out. I think it's as I said, very powerful, very moving, and very
you should
far.
also check out, if you have a second, watch You Like to Draw as well
Is that
on
on
there.
Tubi as well?
Yeah, that's on Tubi. If you just type my name in, Todd Braley, all of my movies will come up side by
Nice.
side. So what do I have on there? Misfit, You Like to Draw, Silence, and my Jaws documentary about
The
Jaws fan.
Fanatics.
Yep, the Jaws
Oh,
fanatics.
that's
So,
awesome. So, well, see, there you go. It goes back to you being a Jaws fan,
yep,
from the beginning and
yep,
everything. I think that's amazing.
yep.
But yeah, you were able to go out and make these movies that are very powerful and very, um, something that a lot of people, I guess they're afraid to do, sort of thing like this, and also it's coming from, and this sounds terrible, but it's coming from like a male director, and everything.
Right.
And usually
Only female directors are supposed to make those kind of movies.
that's the sad thing of what people are saying these days and stuff. Are you
Right.
getting any backlash for that at all?
I don't even listen to it. Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah, it's I have another short film that I did, right after I did Silence. It was called, Me a Rapist, and that came from, I took psychology classes when I was in college, and we had criminal psychology classes, and we used to watch, psych evaluation videos of, different criminal, serial rapists and things like that. And one of the videos we watched was of a serial rapist, which most serial rapists don't have a conscience at all. They're not, they never feel bad about what they did. But one of the ones we watched had this guy that actually had remorse for what he had done. And it was one of those things that, and when you listen to him talk about his past and his family, I thought, wow, that'd be a crazy movie. And I actually would write in between taking notes for class. I was handwriting a script about this guy and was thinking about making a movie. Now that was back in 1985 that I was writing this. And so I jumped forward to 2010, and after I did Silence, I did this movie called Me a Rapist. It went from being a feature length, and I brought it down to a short. It was funny because the script is only 9 pages, but the movie is 32 minutes long. And
How did that happen?
it was because of the way I cut it together. It was the way I edited the movie, and that the dialogue wasn't like just spewed out. I literally, I had 1 full page of dialogue, but drug it out for 7 minutes. The whole beginning of the movie is, it takes almost 6 minutes before we get to any dialogue. So it's but anyway, so it's another one of those character studies about somebody, and I forgot where I was going with this. I do that sometimes. I'm 58, man. Sometimes my brain goes south. But the whole idea of the film, oh, I remember what it was, because you were asking me if I got flack for it. So when I showed that movie, but I showed the short version of Silence together, and I had a small screening for it publicly, downtown Grand Junction here, and some people came in and they were watching it, and then we did a Q&A afterwards, and there was this group of women that had come in, and one of them was like, so what is your fascination with rape? And I looked at her, I go, what do you mean? She goes, well, we, out of the 3 movies we watched, because the other one was High Hopes, and she goes, but out of the 3 movies, out of all 3 of these movies, there's rape in every one of these movies. So what is your fascination with rape? Do you like to are you looking to degrade women? And I looked at her and I go, I didn't even think that that these all coincided. None of them coincided with each other. I tagged Silence and Me a Rapist together because I took the Caitlin character from that original version of Silence and stuck her in the end of this Me a Rapist movie. I said, but I have no fascination with rape. It just so happens that I made these movies. It has this in it. They just happen to coincide with each other. And that answer wasn't good enough. And to me, it's, I don't give a shit about the status quo. I don't care about what the thing is of the day. Again, I'm 58 years old. I don't have time for your fucking drama. I got
Right.
the only drama I want is in front of the camera. I don't want the drama behind the camera. I just put it in front of the camera so I can shoot it. And that's all I care about. I make, if there's blowback over it, okay, that's a you problem. That's not a me problem. So I don't care. I'm not looking to have everybody love me. If we got 100 people out of 500 that like the movie, then I did my job.
Exactly. On
So
a lighter note, because
yeah.
that is, not as light, but okay, so Tasha, on a lighter note, her character sounds a little bit more ghetto, kind of character or whatever. Was that your decision when you were creating the
Oh yeah,
character, or was that
yeah.
hers?
Yeah, I created that. I did that in the script. I did that in the script
The
because
girl
I
who plays Tasha is wonderful. I loved her. Thought she was
yeah.
hilarious at
Emily
times.
Emily is amazing. I'm really sad that she decided after we had a TV series that we were trying to shoot, and we got a couple episodes into it, and because of the writer, um, was just not. It fell apart. Everything fell apart. But Emily was part of that, and after that, because she had put a lot of energy into that, and the guy that created it, the whole thing just kind of fell apart because of his lack of team spirit. um
Yeah, I
and
mean, when you, even as a writer, when you're working on a film or a television show, it's a collaboration. It's not
he forgot
one
that
person.
he forgot that part.
Yeah, but it
So
happens. I know of a lot of people. Like I know of one show, I won't say what it was, but one show fell apart in real, like a real television show fell apart the second season because the producers wanted to go a different way and the
right,
writer didn't. So he said, you can't have my, my project and do anything with it. So he screwed over everybody he had a job and everybody who was whatever, just
right,
because he didn't want to play with the collaborators. I've always told people, and people are always shocked when I tell them this. I'm very great at collaborating. If somebody wants me to change stuff on my scripts or whatever, as long as it's not like
maybe.
drastically change, I'm down with like you want to make the male lead a female lead. I'm fine with that. Just as long as it makes sense for the
Well,
movie.
and that's what it should be. It always should be a collaboration. I always tell the actors I work with, it's like, I don't care if you stray from the script, say like during a scene, if we're shooting something and they stray from the script, I said, just make sure you bring it back around so the next actor who has the next line can deliver his line, and you're not changing, what's already been done or what's coming. And that should be good. But and that's what is beautiful about being able to do this. You can't be married to the script all the time. I mean,
Mm-mm.
it's just not something, I think. And as much I love Taylor Sheridan's, I love Yellowstone. I've watched that fucking series 3 times now. um and it's amazing. The writing is amazing, but he's also really strict about sticking to the script. Um, but to me, I feel like the script should be the platform on which everything that's going to happen afterwards should be based on. And if you're going, you got to have a little bit. You got to give back to the actors, because I mean, you got to have respect for the actors, because they are the people that are putting their heart and soul out on a fucking plate for the whole world to look at. And to not give them the ability to have a say in their character, and even in the dialogue, when they say, what, I don't necessarily think Tasha would say it that way. Can I say it like this? Or they're asking how like Emily every once in a while would just say, hey, now with Tasha with this, did you want her to say it like this? Or because I was thinking about saying it like this. I said, okay, well, that works, but let's do this. You say it this way, we'll do like 3 takes. I said, how about you do it your way, we'll do it my way, and then we'll do a third take and then see what happens,
Right.
and let your mind go. So it was like, just, and with Emily, a lot of it was just little things, little, um like when they were arguing out in the street before they went in the house, to when they find Caitlin after she's been assaulted. um when they're out there, I had this big old thing written, um for her to talk, and it was totally not I thought as I was typing it, I heard Tasha saying it, but afterwards it was like, she was like, I think I would just skip all of this and just go from here to here. And I was like, you know what? You're right. The rest of that shit is irrelevant. Let's just do it that way. So she did that. And then when they walked away, because we did that in 3 takes, because I got 3 different angles on that. And so on the third take, when they're walking away, she when she said when oh, I can't believe my brain is like gone south. Her best friend says, "All right, fine, let's just go in and let's go get her and go." And they turn around, start walking away. Emily would always throw in these little things as they're walking away. She goes, just these little things that she would do every so often before we got to the hardcore stuff that would make her that would just add to her character.
Yeah,
So
it was just something like, yeah, I know what you're talking about. Like she would just do something to like
little movements or
kind of brings attention to her a little bit, which
exactly,
is
exactly.
good because you know it made her character a little bit more fun and light. And
Well,
then later she is it gets when it gets really dark and kind of twisted and all that stuff is happening. She's very good at being very dramatic and so it's a sad thing to hear that she's no longer doing it. Hopefully she, you know what, I always say this is like people say, "Oh, I want to be done with this," or I'm done. I always
right,
say, "Yet," right for now.
right.
But like, you never know, because like in a couple of years, she might have the acting bug again or something, or you might present something to her that she
Well,
goes,
she wasn't
"I'll have
even
to
an
do."
actress.
What?
She wasn't even an actress.
Oh, wow.
She was somebody. I had somebody else for that part. I had an actress for that part, and they bailed out, and I hit her up. I still had quite a bit of time. It wasn't like she came in a week before, but I asked her about doing that. I said, do me a favor. I said, just read the script and let me know if you like that, if you like this part. I know you haven't acted before, but I
How
but
did you
I
meet her?
um God, that's a good question. It's been a while. I met her through another friend of mine who said um that she was looking to do some acting but hadn't done any before.
Right. Okay.
So if I remember
I
correctly.
there's I know people like that actually right now that like people have said, "Hey, this person's a friend of mine and they want to do acting and
Right, right.
usually
I'm
put them
always
in like small roles or something
Yeah,
like
I'm always willing to give somebody an opportunity, because I
right.
mean, a lot of people have gotten the fucking bug, dude. I mean, you know what it's like. You get the film bug, and you get the acting bug, or you get the directing bug, and so to me, it's kind of one of those things um that if you get bit, you better be ready because because the shit gonna roll once you get bit by the film bug. So
Yep.
yeah, she did really well. She did really well. And then she almost wound up playing the role of Ellen in You Like to Draw. Um, but then at the last minute she kind of was, and not the last minute before we started shooting, but she kind of was like, I don't know if I'm really busy with this other stuff that I'm doing. She had gotten a new job, and she was pretty busy, so she kind of bailed out, and that was kind of it. I didn't hear from her again. um but my wife keeps tabs on everybody. She's a Facebook stalker, so she keeps
Good.
tabs on everybody.
That's
But
good. You
she's
got somebody looking out for you, making sure that, to bring them back, you
yep.
know.
So
Um, so yeah, what about Elizabeth? Has she been doing much
you know
after
what?
this?
I haven't heard anything from Elizabeth. The last I saw her was in 2019. She was just getting ready to go move to New York, and that was it. She came to my house to tell me thank you and everything. I said, when you accept your Oscar speech, just make sure that you put my name in there somewhere. And then that was it. I mean, she kind of disappeared off of Facebook. And I don't know. She just I don't know what she's doing now. I don't have any idea. Um, so I wish I could say what she's doing, but I don't have a
I'm
clue.
sure she's working on something, and I hope
Yeah.
so because she was
Yeah.
really good in this. And I
Well,
mean,
she played a 20, what did I say she was? 22 or 23-year-old. She was only 18 when she did that.
I thought she was younger,
Yeah.
she definitely looked younger. And so I was surprised because I wasn't sure the age exactly when I first watched it.
Everybody, well, it was kind of cool because before we shot that movie, um, I had I had put the cast together about 3 months before we started shooting. And it was pretty cool because all of the girls, after the first time they got together, they literally then after that, they hung out all the time. And so by the time we got to shoot the movie, they were like they had been friends forever, which made their relationship on screen work even better. Um, so that's what was kind of cool that they were that after they got together and every once in a while they'd all that I'd get pictures in my Facebook Messenger of them. And it's like, they're all sitting on the couch at somebody's house having a sleepover and hanging out, or they're doing a couple weeks beforehand. Um, Bree Frank had her hair dyed red, that violet red that it
Hmm.
is in the movie, and um, so yeah, the Jenna character was being uh created via these girls getting together, or not created, but they were doing, they did their hair because they were all doing their own makeup and everything. So
That's
yeah,
wonderful.
it was cool. It was cool.
I love
So
that. Like when they all get together and they're gung ho for it.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
and everybody was. I mean, that and the beauty of that movie was, it's done pretty well on streaming channels, and it only cost me $800 to make. So
hey, you
um
made your money back, I'm sure. You know.
tenfold I have.
Yeah, there you
Yeah,
go. So
it,
wonderful.
it's
You're a gross was a worldwide gross.
yes.
Like
Yep.
there you
Yep.
go. So
Exactly.
what's your next project?
Right now I have a couple. I have one that's in post production, and I'm working on the sound. That's called The Chip. It's about four spoiled rich kids who buy into a poker game, and the poker game is about whether or not you're going to survive the the end of the poker game. And so
So
that's
it's more
gonna
horror kind of.
well, not really. It's kind of dramatic thriller, I guess.
Oh,
So that's going to be ready to go here in about a month and a half. And then we're working on Shadows of the Night, which is basically about something that happened to me when I was a kid. I watched The Exorcist on CBS when it was on television for the first time, and just scared the absolute living dog shit out of me.
mm.
And it but then after I watched it, um for a week after I watched it, I had all of these weird things that were happening at my house, like shadows that would come around the corner and then there was nobody there. I had a conversation with my grandmother, and she wasn't in the room, but I thought she was. Um,
Wait, and
and
Oh wow. And she wasn't dead or anything, right? She just
No,
wasn't.
no, my grandmother was actually visiting at that point, but I
So it
thought
seemed like it was real.
it seemed like it was real, like she was in the room. But it was like I was, because she used to the house that we used to have had the upstairs had this bedroom that went with the length of the house. It was a two-story house, but the bedroom went the length of the house, so it was a really long bedroom. And sometimes when my grandmother would come to stay, my dad would set up a bed. He'd take my brothers and I bed, put them together at one end of the room, and then my grandmother could have the other end of the room. And so it was literally like two bedrooms.
Hmm.
And she but she had been getting, obviously she's getting, at that point she was getting older and she couldn't always climb those stairs, so my dad would set something up for her downstairs. And I thought that she had come upstairs, and so I'm having this 3 or 4 minute conversation with her, and she's not in the room. I found out because I turned over and I looked, and the bed was still made and everything. It was like, oh shit. My brother and I went to school one day, came home, and our room looked like a fucking tornado went through it. Um, and there were voices that I would hear, um, during the day in my room. So what I decided to
That's
do was, yeah, it was creepy
yeah,
as hell.
scary.
So what I did was I took that whole week's worth of things that happened and kind of brought it into today. And basically what I did with Shadows of the Night was, I took a young girl who wanted to be a computer hacker, and or wants to be a computer hacker. And basically what she does is she digs into the dark web and she comes across this video. I don't know if you've seen the trailer, but it's on our Indiegogo page. And if in the trailer, basically what we show is she goes onto the dark web and finds this exorcism video, because obviously I can't use The Exorcist. So I decided, well, let me see. She can go into the dark web and she can see an exorcism video. And then basically what happens is when she gets out of there, she brings something back
That's
to our world. And then that's the whole movie of this spirit or this demon or this something that is haunting her and is fucking with her for this during the film, and trying to get people to believe her, trying to get the Catholic Church to believe her, trying to get, it somebody would probably say, well, you kind of took something from The Exorcist. Well, it's got a little dribbling of Exorcist in it, because The Exorcist as a whole, if you're my age and you saw that thing before we got all of the stuff that we have now, that was a scary ass fucking movie. That movie
mhm.
still is scary to
When I was a
me.
kid, the Ouija board scene freaked me out. And I don't need
Yes,
like, and that's not even like looking back now, I'm
that
like not scared of it or anything. And
yeah,
like,
that wasn't me. That was Captain Howdy.
yeah,
and
it was a
and
terrifying movie, I'll admit. And especially for kids,
right.
and everything, watching it, which I think horror films are sort of this thing, like a rite of passage for kids to sort of see, you know, sort of see things, or whatever, and get kind of that, I guess, just to, you know, pass time, whatever, like that's part of their rite of passage.
And I just
But what good?
Oh no, I was just going to say that with this, I wanted, because there aren't a lot of scary movies anymore.
Mm-mm.
You know, James Wan kind of brought back with The Conjuring and Annabelle and those. And I know some people don't like them. I do. I think they're
I
some
love
of them
them.
frightening. And so I just kind of thought, we haven't had a good something that has kind of melded, the process of The Exorcist and the technology that's out there today, and something and stuff with young kids, preteens, um that's even more scary. That was something that really made The Exorcist scary, is the fact that this thing took over a 12-year-old girl's body. So I kind of thought, you know not that the main character gets possessed, but is being fucked with again by something from that she brought back into our world from the dark web. So it's going to be one of those movies that is going to be, I want to scare people. I don't you can gross anybody out super easy. I really want people to be scared. I want people to be like grabbing onto the other person, and it's like one of the scenes from Misfit. I remember showing that when we did our premiere for that. It was just hilarious because there was some of the stuff like when they did you watch Misfit?
I did not, unfortunately. Yeah,
Okay.
there's
There's that's okay. There's a scene in there where it's almost kind of a pseudo torture scene where the main character is being taught by a serial killer how to torment their victims. And she takes this thing from this little surgery kit that's almost looks like a really thin ice pick, and then slides it into in between the toenail, puts it
ew.
in toenail, but I don't show it. See,
Right.
that was one of the things. You see it go down, and then all of a sudden you see the reaction from the woman that she's doing it to. And I just remember seeing the audience, everybody is like, oh, 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 oh. And then they're all just like, oh, 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 and it's those kind of reactions that I love. And that was something with The Exorcist, when I got to watch it with a group of people, everybody was there was those kind of reactions and stuff that really is scary, that people are grabbing onto each other. And I really wanted to do something like that. So with this movie, that's what I've really focused on in putting the script together, is making sure that the stuff that is happening is there's this buildup to what's going to happen, and it's like it's got that tension, and
Right.
you're just waiting for something to happen. And the cast is amazing. I got Bree Frank again, who
Nice.
Jenna and
Jenna.
Silent. She's going to be in it. I've got Deborah Lamb on
Ah,
board.
Deborah. Deborah. She was
Yeah.
in Misfit too, wasn't she?
Actually, she was supposed to be a Misfit too, but we actually kind of pushed that off to the side a
Oh,
while ago.
okay. So she was supposed to be Misfit too. I thought she was Misfit one,
No,
but I
no,
guess no.
she was going to be in the second one. But she actually, I gave her the role of Nancy in You Like to Draw, which stars Bree Frank and Deborah Lamb, Rose Bonino, and Mariah Ellen Griffith. And Deborah Lamb just was amazing in that movie. In fact, we had somebody the other day post something about it, that it was just an amazing, heartwarming film. It's a family film, which again, that doesn't come out of the indie crowd, but it was Deborah just did an amazing job in that. So she's coming back to this one. She gets to play the grandmother of Jamie, who was played by Cheyenne Holding. This is going to be her first movie, and she's actually the one that's on the poster right here in the middle.
Nice.
And Peter Goldthwait is playing one of the priests, and we've got Kazuo Salazar, who's playing Father Ryan. Alexander, I got so many of these like really hard to pronounce last names in this thing. Alexandria Allerheiligen is going to play
Jeez.
her mother. And then I've got Michael Oliver Harris, who's going to play Jamie's father. And then I've got a handful of other people that are going to be a part of it. It's going to be a really scary movie. It's kind of nice because I've been passing the script around as I'm making changes and stuff to it to people, and people have come back to me. It's like, dude, this fucking thing is going to be scary. And I was like, yes, okay, good. Because I'd rather do my what do they call it? Not the preview crowd. What do they call that when they do
Screening?
yeah, well, not the screenings, but when they send it out to do the like when everybody fills out their cards and says
Oh,
what
that's
they
a test screening.
the test screening, right?
Yep.
Couldn't find my words. But so I do my test screening on the script beforehand. So I
Right.
pass.
That makes sense.
So I get it around to I have a handful of people that I can trust with it, that so they come back and they're like,
So they
this
don't
thing's not
Tarantino it
gonna
though, right? Go
no,
back to Tarantino. So
no,
let's take it and put it out
yeah,
there for everybody to see.
right. So anyway, it's gonna be scary. We're actually gonna go to Westland, Michigan to shoot.
Oh,
We're gonna
wow.
Yeah, we're gonna rent Airbnbs. Well, the biggest thing about it is um we have access to this place called the Eloise Asylum, and it was a real asylum many years ago, and somebody bought it a few years ago and fixed it up, and now they have like paranormal paranormal tours. They have escape rooms, which are fucking amazing. I've seen the videos for them. So anybody that lives in Michigan, go to Westland, go to Eloise Asylum. That place is off the chain. And then they also do a thing at Halloween where they have the walkthroughs and the people that scare the shit out of you going through. But we're going to be shooting there as well. So we've actually spoken with the owner, and he's given us. We get to go in there for 4 days and have full run of this place, and the interior of it is just amazing. So the end of the movie, the last the last half, or not the last half, but the last third of the movie, the third act is going to take place in this asylum. So we
Sounds
need
awesome.
yeah, so we need people out there. If you're watching this and you want to help us out with our Indiegogo, you know, go check it out. We got it. The Indiegogo is going to be going until the end of March. Uh,
Nice.
so it's going to be out there for a little while, but we got a lot of great perks, and we got some surprise perks that we're going to throw out there here in the
I'll
next couple
drop
of weeks.
the link to the Indiegogo down in the bottom of
That's
the
awesome, man. I
section.
appreciate
So
it. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
this movie just I kind of got to the point, and again, because we were talking about the crowdfunding earlier. Yeah, we don't like it, but it's a necessary evil.
mhm.
Um, and so I thought with this that I don't want to ask anybody to work for free anymore. I can't do that. When we did You Like to Draw, we did Silence, nobody got paid. It was $800 we spent on the food and props and stuff like that. And then when I did You Like to Draw, I spent $16,000 of my own money to make that movie. And we're on our way to making that back. But I just, when we did that, I thought, okay, I'm not going to ask anybody to work for free anymore after this. Um, so
As you
that's why.
shouldn't.
No, it's just I'm kind of done with that kind of. I don't want to call it that kind of filmmaking, but it's just, you don't want to just keep going. Hey, can you do another one? Can you work for me for 2 weeks for
Yeah.
free, please?
It gets to a
Oh,
point where you're gonna eventually get people who are gonna say, "No, I don't think I can work with you because,
exactly, exactly.
and stuff." Anyway, so you might as well. Um, by the way, I want to mention because you said this is like one of the scariest films, that that you've probably worked on, wrote and everything. But one of the scariest films I've seen lately, the last like scary film I've seen was like The Babadook. And what?
Love
Yeah.
that movie. Love that movie.
And I watched it by myself in the
Oh,
dark, when all alone, right? And it freaked me the fuck out. I went
Yep.
out to let my dog out, and I went outside. And as I went outside, I heard Baba Duke, Duke, Duke
Yeah.
in my head. And
Yep.
so it's a movie that got into my head and kind of freaked me out, of like, okay. And there's not a lot of movies that do that these days,
Yeah.
and I think that is what Hollywood and horror films typically are missing. Like I
Exactly.
love slashers. Like I love my Screams. I love my Friday the 13th. I love those things
Right.
because to me that's just a part of the subgenre. But I really love a good scary like
Yep.
Insidious was like that originally.
Yep.
Going back to James
Yep.
Wan, the first Insidious, I actually got scared more with that, and that was PG-13, more with that than The Conjuring.
Yeah.
Conjuring
Yeah.
didn't really scare me as much, but was rated R, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Exactly.
we're
So
doing that for horror film lovers. We're going to doing a James Wan-a-thon. So we're watching all the James Wan things in chronological order. So
nice.
all the Conjuring movies and all the Insidious movies, we're on to Insidious now, and they're awesome. They're just so
Yeah.
good. Like
Well,
very well
I
done.
a lot of people didn't like even the second or the third one, but I loved all four of them, and I'm
Hmm.
actually eagerly awaiting the fifth one,
That's coming out this year, baby.
Yep. I'm looking forward to that. And that's the beauty of those because they're not gory, excuse me, they're not gory, but they you're just like this
Yeah,
when
exactly.
you're
You're
watching
freaked
them. And
out,
that's
you know.
that's what we're trying to do with Shadows of the Night is do that, get that kind of scare going again, that that we can show that the indie world is not just about blood and guts. And not that that's a bad thing, but it's oversaturated with the gory films. And I just thought, it'd be refreshing to see something that wasn't gory, that was really just frightening. And that's what we're going for on this. So, and it was kind of funny. Somebody asked me the other day, Shadows of the Night, how'd you come up with that name? I actually, after I thought about doing the movie, I was, uh, I was listening to Ronnie James Dio, and I had the Holy Diver album on, and Rainbow in the Dark was playing, and there's a line in there, lost my hold to the shadows of the night. And I went, oh,
There you go.
that's the name of my movie. That's the name of my movie. So thank you, Ronnie James Dio up in heaven. Appreciate
He was doing that on purpose. He was
yeah,
he was
I'm sure it
he was
was.
your
I'm sure
guiding angel.
like
Um
today. Oh.
So, all right, well, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time. I mean, this is a little longer than probably you were expecting to go for
All
and
good, dude.
everything,
It's all good.
but I really appreciate it. And once again, I'll put the Indiegogo link. How can people reach you and contact you? And
Easiest way to find me is just send me a message if you want to contact me for any reason. You know, except to be an asshole. You can send me a message on Facebook. I'm just Todd E Braley or Todd Ernest Braley on Facebook, on Instagram. I actually have 4 Instagram accounts. I have one that is just Todd Braley. I have one that is You Like to Draw Movie. Um, and I have a Shadows of the Night horror film, I think is what I had to put in there. And then I have my podcast we're not doing right now, but it's the Straight Shooters. You can contact me, send me messages through there. I do have a Twitter, but I never use it. So it's
I've been using Twitter a lot more lately, and I think it's because I have been using Instagram less. Because I don't feel like I have the interactions on Instagram that I do on Twitter, weirdly enough. Like I'll
yeah,
post the same thing on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and I'll get maybe 2 or 3 on Instagram, but then I'll get like maybe 10 on Twitter, then I'll get like 60 on or more on Facebook.
yeah,
So
yeah,
a lot of people say like Facebook is dying or whatever. I think Facebook had some kind of resurgence because it's doing very well for me, honestly,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah, I just I just to go with I've been doing a lot of advertising on Facebook using their ads, not the boost post, but actual ads on there. And I've seen a lot of good response. Thank you. Shout out to Jason Horton out there for all of the stuff that he does.
Jason's been on the show,
Yeah,
yeah.
Jason's badass,
Jason's a
dude.
great guy.
Jason's a great guy, and I appreciate everything that he does and all the information he gives us to help us out to be able to make indie films that make movie or that make money. So
Well, here's my thing with Jason that I think is the thing that needs to happen more. He's kind of the connector for everybody. He's there sort of friends with everybody, in the
yeah,
industry and everything.
well,
Like no matter what, he's very
he
friendly
leaves
with
his ego
everybody,
at the
which
door.
what
He leaves his ego at the door,
yeah,
and
so
that's what's cool is because then he doesn't he's trying to help everybody instead of being the guy that, well, fuck that, I'm not going to give everybody the information, then everybody else would be able to do it. Well, welcome to the real world, man, because we're supposed to prop each other up and help each other out. We're not supposed to sabotage and do all this nonsense because because somebody decided it was a competition. So I agree with you fully. Jason is an awesome dude, and he's the guy. He's that guy, exactly who you say he is. So yeah, I totally agree with that.
yeah. So and I would say that to him and he'll just be like, thank you, but he'll just be very humble about it because I don't think
Yeah,
he even realizes
yeah.
himself.
And he's very, and that's the thing that's cool about him is he is so humble, and that makes it even more attractive to be able to go to his stuff, is that he does, and that he's truthful about stuff. He'll say, this is what works for me. Now this may not work, that may not work for this may or may not work for you, but if it does, cool, here's what you can do, here's how to do it. And that's, we need that,
Hmm.
because we're not all, I'm not going to say we're not all technical savvy, but I don't, because I don't just make movies. I mean, I have a video production company. I have 6 clients that I work for on a regular basis. And right now they are all slamming. I mean, I've got no time right now to put a lot of energy into the filmmaking part of what I've got going on with Shadows of the Night at this particular moment, like this week. So it's nice that somebody else is out there doing doing the stuff and then passing that information along, because otherwise, I wouldn't have the time to be able to sit. I have the time to watch a 10-minute video from Jason, but I don't have the 4 or 5 hours to sit and try and figure this shit out. So it's nice that he's out there doing what he does and then passing his information along to the rest of us who may not have the kind of time to be able to spend to get all that stuff figured out. And so it's, thank you, Jason Horton, for doing that. And then my buddy Ty Guberman also does a lot of promotional stuff for us, and he's one of the co-producers on Shadows of the Night. So he's been throwing things out for us, and he's also the guy I do my podcast with, the Straight Shooters. So yeah, it's I'm going to say it right now, guys. Everybody's got to work together and stop working against each other, because
Exactly.
Hollywood does enough of that shit, and we don't need it. We don't need it in our community. So there.
Yeah, I mean,
Let's
if
step
you
off
want to
the
go
fence.
Hollywood, go Hollywood, but don't bring that shit here.
Yeah, yeah,
But yeah, I agree. So thank you so much, man, and everybody
absolutely,
else. Check out
absolutely.
Shadows of the Night on Indiegogo. Also check out his films on Tubi. Just look up Todd Braley on Tubi, and you can see all 4 or 5 of the
There's
movies.
four. There's 4 on there right now, and hopefully very soon, Psychotic Breakdown Anthology is going to be on there.
Nice. I love
Depending,
anthology movies.
Yeah, you know what? I think you'll really like Psychotic Breakdown. In fact, you know what I'm going to do, Jonathan? I'm going to send you a private link so you don't have to wait. I will
All
send.
right,
I'm going to
I'll
send you.
definitely check it out then.
Yeah, I think you'll like it. I think you'll
And
enjoy
maybe
it.
I'll review it sometime,
Yeah,
if you're okay with
awesome.
that. Um,
Absolutely, absolutely.
that's the last thing I'm going to ask you.
Yeah,
Reviews and stuff. You do podcasts, but I don't think you do like review podcasts where you review
no,
films, right,
no,
or anything.
no.
But everybody has their own opinion, right?
Yep.
Period. And my opinion may be different from your opinion. That's why I love Siskel and Ebert because they both usually did not agree. And so sometimes
Right.
they'll be like more like, oh, that, or more like the other one. We always say
Yep.
at the end of our stuff, go watch the movie anyway. Like, even if we think it's the worst movie of all time, make up your own mind. It
Exactly.
may
Exactly.
be you may like it, but if what we tell you turns you off from the movie, that's not our fault. Like
Yeah.
that's just
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
the movie, obviously did not appeal to your senses. Um, and so my question about that is that you know, seeing people's reviews of your films or whatever, I don't know if you read them or not, or if you even
Usually don't.
watch reviews of of what people think. But do you ever like, kind of get mad about it, or do you just like does it just
Well,
wash off your
here's the thing. I've said this before. Um, if you just say it sucks, that's not a review.
you're right.
That is somebody who's obviously got some anger issues and needs a little assistance in their existence. Um, if there's something, I never look at reviews or bad reviews as something bad, because if you can look at it and go, okay, I can see where they mean, I understand what they think about that, because there are every movie that I've got, there's something about it that I go, God, I wish I would have done that differently, or
Mm-hmm.
wish I would have done one more take. So it's not like we're not already beating ourselves up. um, so I think that people just need to remember we're already beating ourselves up for things that we did wrong in our films. But I also look at it as, okay, so that's what I did wrong in this, and I understand what they're talking about. So now here's what's got to happen: make sure that you don't do it in the next movie.
Right.
And that's how I look at it, because I can take constructive criticism all day long, but somebody just saying flat out that it sucks without having a reason, then that's
And
and I
uh,
sweep that under the rug and I don't really care about it.
it's also opinion. It's your opinion. It's my
Yeah,
opinion.
and that's and, and
I
that's
didn't I didn't graduate from like journalism school or anything,
mhm,
like, and even if I did, why does that make me, the person to tell everybody whatever, like that's
right,
just,
right.
so I think the matter it should be where a filmmaker is just accepts the criticism or doesn't. They
Well,
either, listen to it and let it sink in, or they don't read anything, but understand that don't get mad when other people are saying the same exact thing to you because you haven't
exactly.
changed, because you haven't listened to anybody give you the
Yeah, I
constructive
know
criticism.
I know a handful of guys like that. They make the same mistakes in their movies every single time, but yet,
I
and then
think
when
we know the
somebody
same people.
yeah, I think we do. But they make the same mistakes and then get mad when somebody criticizes them, but then you don't do anything to fix it. That's it's to me it's you gotta, if you're gonna do this, you gotta do it. You gotta get better every time you do it.
I
You
agree.
gotta move the camera. You gotta put sometimes you gotta put that fucking camera on a dolly. Sometimes you gotta put it on a camera crane. Sometimes you gotta handhold that. But you gotta know when to do those things.
You gotta
Not
make things interesting, not,
exactly,
like you
exactly.
can't bore the audience because that is the biggest sin in all of,
Absolutely.
all of movie making is
Yep.
boredom. If I'm bored, then I don't want to, why do I want to waste my time with this movie? Like, why do
Yep.
I care? And
Exactly.
people got to realize, because it's not about them. It's not about the filmmaker. Sure,
Right.
sure. If it were about the filmmaker, then you wouldn't put it out to the public. Like if it
Right.
were all about the filmmaker, then they would just show it to their friends and family, and then it wouldn't matter, what the
Right.
public thinks. But once you put it out on Tubi or put it out into the YouTube or wherever you
Right.
want to put it, you said one other site, if you want to put it those places, understand that that means that there are going to be people who like it, there are going to be
Right.
people who hate it, or there are
Yep.
going to be people who hate you because you're doing so they get nasty. And if they don't just say it sucks, they'll go into like 12 pages on Letterbox about how bad they hate the director, or whatever, but it
Yeah.
has nothing to do with the
Yeah.
film, you
It
know?
has nothing to, well, and that, I've had to deal with that whole jealousy thing, and I there was a story I started to tell earlier, but it would take too long, and I don't want to drag this out for you any longer. But it's just kind of one of those things that with the people that just don't like you because you're doing what they're not, um, they just they just don't matter. They and instead of if half of these people would focus their fucking energy on putting together and making better movies instead of worrying about what the hell everybody else is doing, we might have some better movies.
Yeah, no, I
but
totally agree.
but some of them out there just want to focus on being assholes, and
It's so
that's
true. It's like sad, but and then people get mad at me about being negative, but sometimes negativity is constructive and is good, because we can't be happy all the time about everything. We can't
no
we can't
great.
reward bad behavior and and I say bad behavior as far as filmmaking goes,
Yep.
because that's the problem. We're part of the problem, not the solution.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
And that's the biggest point to me with that whole thing is why why be part this should be about solving problems. I mean, that's what we do as filmmakers anyway. We're making these movies, and as a director, you're the problem solver. You're the guy that's in there when something goes south that you're like, okay, fuck, okay, so I don't have that location now. What am I going to do? Okay, I got an idea. So, if everybody again just put that energy into making better movies and creating these uh these relationships with other filmmakers instead of worrying about whether they're better than them or not, uh, this the indie industry would probably be a lot we'd get a lot further than because Hollywood right now, my last thought, Hollywood right now is driving itself into the ground and not giving us, they're just regurgitating shit that's already been done, and
well,
they're
you know
not
why, right?
not doing it well because nobody has
No, no,
any
no. It's
original
not that people
ideas.
have millions of original ideas. They just don't want to take a chance on it because
Well,
they're afraid they're going to lose money.
that's yeah, that's the age old thing. So it's all comes down to money because they're scared about losing money.
Hmm.
And so instead of taking those original ideas, I don't know, I feel like they don't. The guys that have the original ideas are us.
I would agree and disagree. I think there are. I mean, because I hate to say it, like I'm a Marvel fan, and I'm
I
probably
was,
the
but not
worst.
anymore.
What you hate Marvel? You know?
I do now. I didn't used to, but
Yeah,
I
it's gotten a little bit different, but I will just say that I'm a fan of Hollywood, and I still want to eventually work for Hollywood. I don't want to be an independent filmmaker for the rest of my life. Like that's my thing. But I do, I love independent filmmaking. I love making movies, period. Whether I do it for however I do it. And the thing is, Hollywood has some original people. They are working on it. They're doing stuff. The problem is the tent pole stuff, the comic book movies right now are the big thing. Before it was I don't know. I don't know before then because I guess in the 90s things were a lot different, you know. But
Well,
two
a lot of the 90s was action films, and there were a lot of good dramatic films that came out of the 90s.
There's still a
Um,
lot of great dramatic films that come out of
so
today,
there, they, there are a lot of good ones, but they're not ones that everybody knows about. There's a great there's a couple of great films that I just absolutely I've watched multiple times. Four Good Days with um Miley Milas my I never can remember her damn name. The dark haired girl from That 70s Show. Was
Oh,
it
Mila Kunis.
Mila Kunis and Glenn Close? Absolutely fucking amazing movie. Um, and then another one with I'm so bad with the names now. She was in the first Conjuring movie. She was the mother in the family of the first Conjuring movie.
Oh, Rose Byrne? No.
No, not
Oh,
no,
she was
the
in
mother,
Insidious.
the mother in the mother in the first Conjuring movie, who was the mom with the family. Um,
I know.
you know who I'm talking about, and you can't think of her name. There's the, but she's in this one called Paper Spiders. It's about mental illness. Amazing movie. 5 Good Days, or I'm sorry, 5 Feet Apart. Um, it was another one that's
Lily
just
Taylor. Lily Taylor.
Lily Taylor, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's Paper Spiders. That's an amazing movie. 5 Feet Apart is an awesome, is an awesome. I don't want to call it a romantic drama, but it's there's so many good movies out there that have been done that just don't get the comeuppance they deserve. They don't
No.
they're not talked about enough, and I just
They
feel
kind
like
of
people.
slip through and some of them end up in like the Dollar Tree
Yeah,
bins
yeah,
and stuff. And sometimes you find them and you're like, this is actually pretty decent. Why
yeah,
why
yep,
why is this like undiscovered?
right, right.
But
Well, there's another one that I really really liked with Paul Rudd called The Fundamentals of Caring. That was it was a Netflix original movie. Absolutely amazing. It's hilarious. It's Paul Rudd plays a caregiver that is taking care of a kid with multiple sclerosis, and it's it's just an awesome movie. It's a good heartfelt movie. It's not a family film, but it's got its moments, and it's
there
when
was
it's fun, when it's funny, it's fucking hilarious, and when it's sad, it'll rip your fucking heart out. And that's so yeah, it's got Paul Rudd. I forget the English kid's name who's in it, but then Selena Gomez is in it too, playing complete.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Yeah, I saw that movie.
Yeah, I love that movie. Yeah, it's a Netflix original. It's Fundamentals of Caring. Um,
Yes, the fundamentals caring and stuff, and it's like,
yep,
uh, yeah, he enrolls in a class about caregiving that changes his
yep.
perspective of life. But like, I remember that was such an sort of an odd movie a little bit. Like there
I
was
love
like a
it.
little couple odd scenes, but
Yeah,
aside from that, like quirky, kind of
yeah.
odd. I
It's
also really liked him in Ideal Home. I don't know if you saw that, but that
no,
starred him and Steve Coogan, and they play like a gay couple who end up having to take care of a child, and that was one of the it was Steve Coogan's grand son's child, and they have to take care of him, and it kind of at first it tears them apart, but then it brings them together, that kind of thing. And I was I sort of love that,
sounds good.
yeah, it's a
So
really good movie. I was surprised. I was just saw it on Amazon when I was like flipping through and doing like this 365-day movie challenge, and I was just
yeah,
like saw it, and I was like,
yeah,
all
yeah.
right, why
Here's
not?
another one to put on your list. It was called The Road Within, and
Road
it's
Within.
The Road Within. It's about a kid that has severe um God, I hate when I can't find my words. Um what is it when you swear
Tourette
like
syndrome.
Tourette syndrome, right? He has that. It has Lenny Kravitz's daughter, Zoe Kravitz, in it. She has an eating disorder, and then it has this other kid in it um, who's a germaphobe, and the three of
Nice.
them. And I can't tell anything from there because it would just take it apart. But it's called The Road Within. It's on Amazon, and you can find it on other streaming channels. But that is a fun. It's like a good road movie, because they wind up
Nice.
taking.
I love those.
Yeah, you'd love that, Jonathan. It's awesome. So I think people should go and check that out as well.
Well, there
So,
you
all right,
go.
I'll
Hey,
stop.
now people got some ideas of what to watch,
Yep,
after
yep.
watching your films too. Um, so everybody check those out. Check Todd's stuff out, and support his Indiegogo. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be doing this every other week like planned, or if this is going to be a monthly thing, and whatnot, but we'll find out. It just depends on when
All right.
people are able to come on or whatnot. And so I was really glad you're my first guest of the season. And I think
Well,
this
I
started
really
off really
appreciate it.
well. I mean, don't know if it'll always go on this long, but I think that's because
We
we had a
talk a
lot to
lot.
talk about, and
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. So everybody check out his stuff, and thanks again, Todd. I'm looking forward to seeing what you do next.
Awesome. Yep. Keep your eyes open. I got lots of stuff coming.
All right, everybody, have a good one. Bye.